Hello, it is IARESMART, and as you can see, today we're going to be doing a Star Wars movie and some TV show tier list. Yes, I'm going to be ranking all the Star Wars things. However, it's not going to be based off of my personal opinion. I think I've given that in the past, but this is going to be the objective ranking. You cannot disagree with this because it is simply fact. It's not my opinion, because my opinion differs from what I'm going to do in this list. Well, you see, I have simply, over the years kind of accumulated all this knowledge. I'm going to be looking at every movie objectively, judging it based off it's good or bad. My personal bias is out of the way, okay? So just so you know. You're probably still going to disagree with me because, there is, no one's going to be happy with one Star Wars tier list. Everyone's going to do it a bit differently. But this is what I believe to be, pure, objective. So obviously that means that we have to take Empire and put it at the top. That's just, almost any Star Wars fan. Like most Star Wars fans you ask, they will tell you that Empire Strikes Back is the best. That's just how it is. Almost everyone seems to agree on this, that Empire is the best. Why is it the best? Because it is. You see, Star Wars, when it came out, was a classic. And even I'll even put it in A, because, Empire is just the best. Personally, I think this is more accurate, but I think it'll be okay with that. Empire is still the best, and I think New Hope is a very, very close second. Personally, I would think I would prefer A New Hope, but we're putting A New Hope second. So basically, the reason for this is because Empire is just better, from what I can tell from most people. I don't like it as much. I'm not the biggest Empire fan. However, most people are, because it makes sense. It's the one, the biggest plot twist of all time. That being, Darth Vader being Luke's father. One of the most iconic moments in all of cinema. So it's got that going for it. You have the Battle of Hoth. You have Luke training with Yoda. You have Cloud City. All this incredible stuff. It's just this movie is just it's perfect. There's almost no flaws in Empire. That's why everyone likes it so much, okay? And then New Hope is just a little bit not as good for some other various reasons. They had a higher budget with Empire, and that makes it a bit better too. But that's just what I think. So next up, we're going to keep going in order, and before we kind of flipped it with the first two, but where is it? Where is Jedi? Jedi I'm putting in A tier, because it's still really good. The original trilogy is just the best of the best when it comes to Star Wars. It kind of just goes downhill after there. But, I don't know, I'm not the biggest fan of Jedi. Personally, I don't really like the first and second part, but the last part of it is really good. And this is what most people seem to agree on. A lot of people really like Jedi, so that's the reason it's an A tier. I think it's probably the weakest out of the original trilogy, and most people also seem to share this opinion. Again, this is not just a my opinion tier list. This is me collecting information from different people I've talked to over the years, and just seeing what people think online. So this is the objective tier list, right? I'm saying this again. It's not my opinion. This is just what it is, right? So therefore you can't disagree, because it's not my opinion. It's everybody's opinion. And we're putting this on a tier list. Just to inform you, okay? So this is why that's here, because that's where it is. So next up we have to go to, where is it? Why is this out of order? This would be so much nicer if this tier list was in order. There it is, Phantom Menace. I think that's being kind of generous, actually. We're putting it there because most people don't like Phantom Menace. A lot of people do. A lot of people have gained appreciation over the years. That's what's keeping it from being down here. It's in C mainly because of Duel of the Fates. Almost everyone agrees that Duel of the Fates is cool. The politics and all that stuff, like pod racing, the thing is, Phantom Menace is very subjective. Some people really like it, but most people don't. Like, if you like all that stuff, that's good, that's great for you. But it's not entertaining to most audiences, and therefore that's why it falls into C. That's me being generous with this one. Most people will, most fans you talk to, nowadays, a lot of, the younger fans that are more my age will, love Phantom Menace because they grew up with it. Putting aside that, personal bias of nostalgia, that, you watched this when you were a kid, it's a pretty meh movie. Attack of the Clones, I personally would put it down here, but I think it's really very similar. I go back and forth. Someone say it's better, someone say it's worse. That's why I'm putting them right next to each other, because it's very hard for me to tell, based on general consensus. Most people seem to be that, the first two prequel movies are just kind of eh. Like, a lot of people have gained appreciation for this. They've gained the appreciation of, like, oh, well, originally people were saying, like, oh, Anakin's so bad in Episode 2, he's so annoying, he talks so awkwardly. But now we have people saying, no, that was intentional, which it was. George Lucas intended for, he's a slave, he's literally never seen a girl in his life. Obviously, his flirting is going to be awkward. It makes sense. That doesn't make it weird, though. Like, it makes sense why Anakin acts the way he does, and, why he says, I don't like sand, and somehow that, is a line, that gets him with Padme later, but whatever. It's still weird. Does it make sense? Kind of. It's still weird, though, and that's why it's down here in C. It's not that great of a movie, honestly. Like, there are some good parts, don't get me wrong, but it is not that great of a movie. I'm sorry. So next up, we have Revenge of the Sith. Now, for whatever reason, most people seem to think that this is the greatest Star Wars film ever. It's not. It's good, don't get me wrong. I think it's better than the other two prequel movies. It's the good one out of the prequels. But it's not that great, okay? I know. Like, the thing is, it's such, this is such a crazy opinion these days that this movie isn't good. But it just isn't, okay? Again, this isn't my opinion. My opinion is that I love watching this movie. I absolutely love Revenge of the Sith. But you have to realize, this movie isn't great. I know a lot of people love this movie these days, but a lot of people also don't. You have to realize that, okay? Alright, are you okay? Are you done writing your angry comments? Ask yourself this question. Do you like Revenge of the Sith because it's a good movie? Or do you like it because it's the one that has the most memes in it, alright? Let's be real. It's the one where he says, hello there, I am the Senate. All this stuff. All the big funny prequel memes are in episode 3. So, and also this movie is just all lightsaber battles, which is cool, but that's like the only good part of the movie. Because then the rest of it is just like really cringy dialogue where it's like, Anakin's like, oh, I'm just so in love with you. And Padme's like, so love has blinded you? And he's like, no. And it's like, what is the point? Can we get to the point here? And then we also have a ton of other dumb stuff people have seemed to have forgotten about. Like the 5-minute long scene where Palpatine literally tells Anakin, hey, I'm a Sith Lord. I killed my master. It's literally me in this story. And Anakin's just like, oh, okay. And then it takes him like another 20 minutes of the movie to figure out, wait, Palpatine is the Sith Lord? What? So yeah, this movie has a lot of dumb stuff in it. People seem to have just forgotten about that, okay? That's why it's there, alright? So, I know, you're all upset. But again, objective tier list. This is me looking at all aspects of the film. The lightsaber battles are really good. The stuff about Anakin, Obi-Wan, Anakin's fall is very compelling and very interesting. But the movie has a lot of shortcomings that bring it down a bit. And people seem to really overinflate this movie, and I don't get it. If you like it, that's fine, But the movie is just, it's better than average. It's on the upper side here, but it's still just pretty okay. Okay, there we go. That's the most difficult one. That's the one I'm gonna get the most hate for on this tier list. But again, not my opinion. My personal opinion, I would put it higher because I really like Revenge of the Sith. But because a lot of people don't like Revenge of the Sith, it has to go there. Okay, I'm sorry. That's just the way it has to be. So next up, we have to move on to, I think, it gets kind of weird with the order here for some of these. We're going to do, where is it? Clone Wars movie. Yes, this was the next movie that was released. It's bad. Everyone seems to be agreeing. This is probably the easiest placement. The Clone Wars movie is very bad. It has some cool stuff, like Anakin and Ahsoka meeting, which, would eventually build into the Clone Wars series, which is cool. But this movie is bad. The animation is bad. It's just bad. I don't need to get into why it's bad. It's bad. If you haven't seen it, don't bother watching it. It isn't very good. It's not, holiday special. Holiday special would be way, way down here. But it is not good, okay? It really isn't that great. I know, and some people, again, are probably nostalgic for it, but it is very bad. So, next up, let's just get these TV shows out of the way, and then we'll go on to all of these. So basically, Clone Wars. The difficult thing is with this, the earlier seasons of the Clone Wars are kind of but the later seasons are really, really good. And then, even like intermixed, there's some episodes that are really good and really bad. So that's kind of difficult. And, so ranking just the Clone Wars as a whole is very difficult. But overall, I would put it in, I think for that end, it kind of, this is very difficult for me. Because considering it as a whole, it has a lot of episodes, but then some really, really good episodes. But as a whole, as an overarching story, I think it's good enough to put it in A, okay? For the people who haven't seen it are probably a bit confused, but I think Clone Wars is really, really good. And again, personally, I think it's better than the prequels as a whole. It makes the prequels better, but also on its own, it is just really good, and I think it surpasses the prequels. But it also adds to them, and it works with the prequels. But still, I would say it's better. And I think this seems to be a pretty general consensus, It wasn't until the Clone Wars series that people started to appreciate the prequels. So that has to, that says something. Yeah, I think that's quite fair. Feel free to disagree with me, but I think that's quite fair. And I think, again, this is objective, not my opinion. My opinion, I'm not even that big of a Clone Wars fan. I'm just putting it up here because I know a lot of people really like Clone Wars. Personally, I would put it lower. But because a lot of people like Clone Wars, that's where it's going. Okay, Resistance. Again, another easy one. I watched this entire series. I'm probably one of the few people who has watched the entire thing. It isn't good. it really isn't good. There are a few parts where I'm like, okay, there's some semblance of something that's good here, but it's just so boring. It took me so long to get through this series. Actual months, because every time I would get through a couple episodes, I'd be like, I'm just sick of this. And I would leave it for like weeks on end. And then I'd finally be like, alright, let's see if I'll watch another episode. And I'd be like, ugh, it's just a pain. Eventually you get to some kind of cool stuff, like Kylo Ren shows up for like 2 episodes. But he's just a hologram. He's not even... whatever. You don't need... Resistance is bad. It's just bad. Okay, we're moving on. Rebels... Again, I really don't like Rebels. Personally, I don't like Rebels. But I know a lot of people do. I don't think it's as good as Clone Wars, but it is still good. There is some good stuff in there that a lot of people like. Personally, I don't like it, mainly because it's about Rebels, and I hate Rebels. You know, Empire for the win. But basically, a lot of people really like this one, and there are some cool stuff in it. And, you know, it's Star Wars Rebels. A lot of people like the stuff that's in it, so that's why it's there. That's why it's in B tier. I think it's not as good as Clone Wars, but it is pretty good. Okay, so next up, we're just gonna get Mandalorian out of the way. We're gonna leave the sequels for last because those are gonna be difficult. So basically, Mandalorian is really good. It is probably some of the best Star Wars stuff we got, especially season 1. I think season 2 falls a bit more into just, ooh, look, here's this character, look, here's this character, look, here's this character, look, 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 look. Which is, it still has a lot of good stuff in it, but personally, I think the first season is just really, really good. It's really original. Brand new Star Wars stuff, very different from stuff we gotten before. It's very fresh, it's very new, and that's why it's an A tier. And everyone loves it, you know. Even like non-Star Wars fans watched The Mandalorian and loved it, you know. That's why, you know, Baby Yoda merchandise is so huge because of just this show being popular. This show is quite remarkable, what it was able to do. So, The Mandalorian, very good show. And again, this seems to be, I think some people would probably put it higher. This is about where I would put it, personally, in my opinion, but also, you know, many people seem to say that it's very good. It has some shortcomings, which is why it's not in the very top, but overall it is a very, very good series. So next up, should we do these ones first? Let's just do Rogue One first. Rogue One, I'm gonna have difficulty. Personally, I would put it up here, but I think most Star Wars fans would put it in here, because a lot of fans just kind of forgot about it. I think you really should revisit it if you haven't seen it in a while. Watching it in IMAX was an incredible experience. But again, personally, I would put it higher, but a lot of Star Wars fans are just kind of like, oh yeah, that was a movie. It happened. And I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm such a big, like, you know, like original trilogy fan, and, you know, it's just so, you know, oh, you know, rebels and stormtroopers and they're fighting, and there's a lot of great stuff in it. The plot can get a bit messy if you get into it too much, and there's some stuff that doesn't really make sense. But overall, it's really good, okay? Rogue One is really good, alright? That's what I'm gonna say. Rogue One is good, okay? It's good. It could be better, though. You know, there were some issues. They had to, like, reshoot a ton of stuff, and they had to keep changing it. So, there are some things that keep it from being really, you know, ultimate good. Personally, I would put it higher because I really, really like it. But I think, as a whole, just for how many fans just kind of don't really like it, I don't think there are that many people that hate Rogue One. There are probably some, but most Star Wars fans are like, it's good or it's just okay. So that's why it's in B tier. It's better than average. It's better than average. We're going to do Force Awakens first. Force Awakens is good. It's slightly better than average. Now, the thing with Force Awakens is it is very, very much like A New Hope. It is pretty much a copy. A lot of people just call it that, and they say, oh, it's basically the same story. You know, you have kid on a desert, you know, meets a droid that's important to the Rebel Alliance, and then they have to, like, go, and then they meet, and they go on the Millennium Falcon, and then they, you know, blow something up, and then their mentor dies, and yada yada. It's basically the same story, okay? So that, you know, automatically that makes it a bit better, because, you know, A New Hope is a really good story. So even this movie just copying that almost exactly just automatically makes it good, you know, because, well, it's good. The story is good. It's kind of bad because it plagiarizes it, but it still makes it good. If you get what I'm saying, I don't know if you do. I don't know if my words are making sense right now. But basically, all the stuff that it does, it was just really cool at the time. So anyway, Force Awakens, I think it's good. I think a lot of people overhate it. Like, it's not terrible. You know, it's not Rise of Skywalker bad, okay? Force Awakens is actually pretty decent. You know, it was a starting point. Now, the conclusion to where a lot of these, you know, it gave us a lot of questions. You're like, who's Rey's parents? Who's Snoke? Who's Finn? What's he gonna do? Who's this Captain Phasma? A lot of these questions are left unanswered, and they don't get very satisfying conclusions. But it's still interesting, you know. Back in 2015, and it was very visually stunning. You know, we got to see all the brand new special effects. So yeah, Force Awakens is pretty good. It's okay. I think a lot of people especially prequel fans, are probably losing it right now, seeing these two on the same tier. I would still say this one's better, so that's why it's closer. It's better. But I think a lot of Star Wars fans, you know, they're like, this all the way up here, all the sequels all the way down here. Yeah, that's ridiculous, okay? That's not reasonable. So this is very reasonable, putting it right here. It hurts me to do this, because personally, I would put it up here. But with how many Star Wars fans that absolutely hate this movie, and the amount of Star Wars fans that absolutely love this movie, it's so strange to me that there's such a discrepancy. There's really no in-between on this movie. It's either it goes up here or it goes up here. That's the two kind of Star Wars fans. So that's why I'm putting it down here, okay? This is just to account for both those groups of people, the people who love it and the people who hate it. I think more Star Wars fans hate it, but there is a big portion of Star Wars fans, people don't seem to realize this. A lot of people really love this movie, myself included. I love the good parts. There are a lot of good parts of this movie, and I don't get why people don't notice them. Like, visually, it's the greatest Star Wars movie. It is the greatest visual Star Wars movie because the cinematography, it's beautiful. I've talked about this before. It's such a stunning movie. Like, even, like, other movies have good visuals, but the way that this one is it's just, it's so good. Especially Rian Johnson's directing style, just the way he, like, shoots characters' faces and puts lighting on it. It's this whole thing I could talk about forever. It's very good, alright? Now, his writing skill, Rian Johnson, we can argue about that. Personally, I think the stuff that has to do with Rey and Kylo and Luke is really good, and I like what they did with it. A lot of people will disagree with me there. But for the fans who like it, those are, like, you know, their main strengths of the movie, you know? All that stuff's good. The whole, you know, First Order and Resistance flying through space is just kind of weird, but it's alright, I think. And then, you know, you have Canto Bight, which is just Canto Bight. We don't need to talk about it. It's bad. So, you know, but overall, this movie is just slightly below average. And strange, because Rian Johnson intentionally made this movie to be divisive. I don't know why he did that. That's why I'm putting it below average. Because it's just like, okay, why would you intentionally make a movie that's going to make people upset? I still don't understand the logic of that decision, but that's what he did. So, okay, I guess. Okay, so now onto the movie that a lot of people probably forgot exists. It's Solo, a Star Wars story. And I don't know where to put it, honestly. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't that bad, but it's just kind of okay. I mean, it just kind of happened, but it didn't really need to happen, because it's like, do we really need a story about Han Solo? We don't really. Like, he's cool, and there's some cool stuff in this movie, but it's just kind of unnecessary. Like, I don't know why this movie had to happen. Rogue One, again, I mean, same thing with Rogue One, like, it didn't need to happen. No one was asking for a movie about, you know, where the Rebels got the Death Star plans, but it turned out to be really good. And this movie was the same thing, where it's like, why do we need a movie about this? But it turned out to just be kind of okay. There wasn't really anything groundbreaking or new. And you had a lot of really stupid stuff, like, I don't have a family name. And the guy's like, I'm gonna call you Solo. And it's like, really? Han Solo, one of the most iconic Star Wars characters, got his name from some random guy? That's kind of dumb. So whatever. But, you know, there's just some other just kind of weird stuff. Like, the whole train heist is very cool, and I like it. But for most people, just kind of forgot about this movie, and that's why it's just here. I personally think it's good, and the people who have seen it think it's good, but just so many people just didn't see this movie because they were upset about this movie. So I don't know. Because it's just kind of okay, I'm putting it down here. Alright, so again, that's just how it is. I haven't put anything in D tier, and you might think I'm probably just going to put it here, let's be honest. I think this is okay. I feel weird having D tier be empty, but they're just, I don't know. I feel like I can maybe move this up, but it's not that great. Or I could maybe move this up, or move this down. I don't know. I don't know if anything's really deserving of D tier, because this is obviously E tier. Rise of Skywalker is just a terrible movie. I personally enjoy it, because it's silly and fun, and just kind of stupid, and Palpatine's in it. But this movie is just so appallingly bad. I honestly would not be surprised if what they did was intentionally. They were intentionally alright, screw it. We're going to make the worst movie possible. I genuinely think that might be what they considered when they made this movie, because it's just horrendous. I don't know. So maybe I'll move this up, just because there is some cool stuff in Clone Wars movie, and I don't think it's as bad. I think that's more fair. But again, this is definitely worse than this, and this is definitely worse than this. So I think I'm okay with that. But yeah, Rise of Skywalker is just bad. It's definitely not the worst Star Wars thing we've ever gotten. There are definitely other weirder, more obscure things that are on this list, such as the holiday special, the Ewok movies, and just some other things, but The Rise of Skywalker is just very bad. It is very bad. Like I said, I like it. I would personally put it a bit higher because, you know, it's a fun movie to watch. It's a bad movie, a very bad movie, but that makes it fun to watch. But we're going off of good and bad here. So, you know, here we have the worst Star Wars and here we have the best Star Wars. So there you go. There is my Star Wars ranking. It's impossible for you to disagree with this because, well, it is objective ranking. Now, there are some difficulties, like, you know, could, you know, this and this get moved around? And also I was considering doing this as like a, you know, ranking as like, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But I think a tier list works because, you know, some of these can be interchanged a bit. They can be moved around. And, you know, I think this is pretty good. Now, obviously, I wasn't able to ask every Star Wars fan for their opinions, but I got most of the opinions that I've seen online, you know, asking people in person, that sort of thing. So I think this is fairly definitive, okay? It's fairly definitive. It may change, and also, like, Book of Boba Fett isn't on here. That's just what this tier list said. Personally, I would put Boba Fett, like, probably down here. It wasn't that great, let's be honest. And Kenobi, I'd probably put, like, right here, because it was good, but it really just was messy. There was some great stuff in it that I think puts it higher, but it was just not very well put together, I didn't think. So, I don't know. Overall, this is it. This is the end of the tier list. I've done a thing before, ranking all the Star Wars movies using a bell curve. As you can kind of see, this actually does make a bell curve shape. Because, I mean, wouldn't you believe it? Most Star Wars movies are just kind of okay. A very few of them are exceptional, and a couple of them are very bad. So, look at that, the bell curve. This is a bit different than the bell curve I used in a previous video, but you can go watch that video if you want to. It's an older video, but it checks out. So, anyway, I think this video was probably pretty long. But if you watched it, I hope you enjoyed. And you're probably going to disagree with me, but you can't because reasons that I've explained earlier in this video. So anyway, bye.